Texans offensive coordinator Bobby Slowik spoke to the media today. As you might imagine, the first question was about other teams having interest in him. He's got a big old pile full of requests for interviews.
Same as last week, very grateful for every consideration, grateful for the opportunities, grateful to D'Amico, to Nick, to the Texans organization, for giving me this opportunity. But right now, I couldn't tell you what's going on. I'm entirely locked in on the Ravens. I know coming up here pretty soon, that process is going to start pretty quick, but I'm going to cross that bridge when I get to it right now. Right now, I'm just Baltimore.
Okay, so that process is starting pretty soon. I was kind of hoping that when he said that he still didn't have any more information, that he just flat out wasn't planning on doing any Zoom calls or anything. Both the Ravens coordinators have interviewed, but they also had a bye week last week, so that was about as small a distraction as possible. If anything, that's probably a good thing to take their mind off things a little bit. Of course, their players haven't practiced, or the players haven't played in like 3 weeks, but
That's correct.
Were you at all surprised by the poise that CJ showed in his first playoff game as a rookie, or is it just kind of old hat to you?
were you at all surprised by the poise that CJ showed in his first playoff game as a rookie, or is that old hat to you?
Considering how he's carried himself throughout the season?
I wouldn't say it's old hat, but I'd say he's proven that it shouldn't be a surprise by this point in the year. He's progressed and built through the year. A great rapport with the coaching staff, with the offensive players, with the team, and he's very confident. And I think that shows every time he steps on the field. And it was no different against Indianapolis, which was really a playoff game for us, and it was no different last Saturday. And I would expect that to continue no matter where we play. He's proven big games don't phase him. I wonder if his heart rate drops. He's a special individual in that way. It's been really fun to be a part of.
Yeah, he'd probably be a good assassin, or sniper at least. Keep the heart rate low and just pew. I feel like most good quarterbacks would probably be good assassins. Joe Flacco, awful. He'd be. There's a video circulating. Maybe you guys can tell me what it's from, but it's D'Amico telling Christian Harris before his pick six exactly when he should jump the route from Joe Flacco, who is a veteran, just decided to never change. He's just gonna keep playing the same way. Turnovers be damned. Next question. Let's see if we can hear it.
Did you see something in the first Baltimore game, which was his first regular season start? Anything in that game? Obviously you had trouble scoring that day, but a lot of teams had trouble scoring on them this year. But specifically about him, that said, "Well, this is a tough situation, tough place to start your career." That said, this kid's really different.
Yeah,
All right, okay. I got to read that off the transcript. Somebody asked in a very long-winded fashion about the positive takeaways he had on quarterback C.J. Stroud after Week 1 at Baltimore.
I mean their defense is really good. You're absolutely correct in that regard. I mean, good at every level, which is rare. I feel like when you go against a defense and from the front to the backers to the back end, they're good across the board. You got to earn everything. Schematically, they're really good. I think Mike does a great job there. So we know we got a challenge in front of us. But then, like, circling back to Week 1, and we kind of used it a little bit on offense as a little bit of a rallying cry. Like, we couldn't get out of our own way in that game. We couldn't even really get the ball down and set to snap it to even feel like we played, and that starts with me, and it starts with coaches. And we kind of changed what we did from after that point on. I think we evolved as an offensive unit and as a group from that point on. But then in between getting in our own way there, CJ, when the ball was snapped and we were able to be where we needed to be, and kind of I got out of the way, CJ did some special stuff in that game that you don't always see a rookie quarterback do in his first game out there on the road. When you have to deal with crowd noise and good players on the other side and everything that's going on. Yeah, I mean, he was awesome once we were able to get into a rhythm. But that game, we didn't get into a rhythm. And then from there, It was unfortunate at the time, but it really set the table for what we became as the year went, and we grew a lot from there. So it was awesome to see the glimpses, and then now they've just become significantly more consistent.
So the defense there, Mike McDonald, the defensive coordinator, who has faced CJ when he was the defensive coordinator at Michigan, and then obviously faced him again earlier this year. So CJ's faced him twice and lost both those because he only faced him once at Michigan, but CJ never beat Michigan. So as a starting quarterback, they are very versatile. You try to say, okay, what defines the Ravens defense? What do they do a lot of? I mean, they went, let's see. Oh, they 11% blitz rate versus Burrow. Next week, 51% blitz rate versus Anthony Richardson. Like any given week, they might blitz a ton. They might hardly blitz at all. Their coverages are all over the place. They played predominantly cover 6 versus the Texans, and I don't think that was their predominant coverage in a game since then, but I think that'll change again this week because CJ is a different quarterback. And as far as what Bobby was saying, yeah, they tried to do way too much. I think I read through the transcripts briefly. I think he gives a more specific answer about that. So we'll wait for that.
With that, you said shortly after that first game against Baltimore that was one that kind of rocked your boat a little bit. When you look back at the film of that, what kind of jumps out for you? And can you speak a little bit on maybe just how far you've become as a play caller coordinator since that?
Yeah.
Okay, Sean Bajani asked about how he had mentioned that first Ravens game kind of rocked his boat a little bit, and how did he adjust to that moving forward?
Yeah, I think the biggest part with that, and I use the phrase "rocked my boat" a little bit, just because, like I started with the 505, and it's the first game we've had here under this scheme, and you need to start at the 101, and we didn't do that, and we didn't really even give anybody a chance. And after that, we kind of changed how we were approaching some things, how we coached some things, how we were setting some things up, and the other part of it is in that game, I think we all got a really clear picture of what we were really good at, as an offense and as specific individuals on the offense. And guys have just grown from there. They've expanded what they're good at. They've amplified the things that they showed in that game that they can do really well. And that really kind of, like I said, set the table for the rest of the year. From that point on, we've had a pretty focused vision for what we want to do on offense, and I think everybody's been on the same page in that regard.
I would add to that with defense too, as far as learning what your personnel can do. That's one of the hardest things when you're a new coaching staff and you have young, unproven players. And you see the good coaches do it every year. Belichick was a master at this, was learning what his defense was over the first half of the season and then running with it. The one year they'd end up being a heavy rush team. Another year they were all gun, all pass all the time. And they didn't always really know it until halfway through the season. So I think, especially with Nico developing the way he did, Dalton Schultz getting to know the offense better, the offensive line. I mean, they were playing 4 backups that first week, and they're still playing 3 backups really, but they've had at least some consistency. I thought it was interesting that he said the 505. I thought that was some kind of like 808 reference or something. I thought we were gonna get like I thought that was like the precursor to the 808s or something. And Bobby was going to drop some rap knowledge that we didn't even know he had. But he's talking about being at 505 level instead of 101, which we've talked about on this channel many, many times. It is the curse of first-time offensive and defensive coordinators that they want to put in the entire damn textbook in week 1. And especially maybe with a guy like CJ, it might be tempting to think he can take on more than he can as a rookie. But obviously, he's taken on way more since then. It's just they got a little full of himself there. Bobby did.
Studies, because in December the Ravens they kind of had their way with Miami and with the 49ers, who you guys run similar schemes that you guys all from that same tree. How much do you guys agree? I know actually before you said that you guys are Houston Texans a little bit different, but a lot of y'all fundamentals have some overlap and similarities.
Okay, that's a good question. I think that's DJ Bianime asking, hey, the Ravens really had their way with both the Dolphins and the 49ers, and those are Kubiak Shanahan schemes. These two guys both are the most recent proteges of Kyle Shanahan. So how do you handle that?
How much studying do you do on how they attack those offenses and try to incorporate that in you guys and how to overcome some of the challenges that they present to those two offenses.
So how much will you study those offenses and identify common challenges?
Yeah, I'd say the one thing that jumps out when you're watching the last 2 months of film of the Ravens is there are a lot of games that are out of hand in the fourth quarter. I mean, I want to say there were 2 games maybe that were competitive in the last month late in the game. The Rams jumps out to me, and Cleveland had to claw their way back in that one, so that there were a lot that were out there. I don't think it was just Miami and San Francisco, but it's helpful, not necessarily in how they're going to attack us, because I think a lot of times on defense, just as much as you're attacking the scheme, you're attacking people. But it helps a lot to get similar looks. That's where it becomes really beneficial. A lot of different offenses align in different ways. Some teams are really condensed formations. Some teams are really wide formations. Some teams motion a lot. Some teams don't. And it just lets you get looks at how they play certain things and make certain adjustments. And then we see if we can take advantage of that.
Okay, I like Bobby kind of flipped that one on its head, didn't he? Yeah, I don't know if you even really answered the question as much about that DJ was asking, other than to say, look, they're looking to attack people more so than the scheme, but that also he's now had a look at how perhaps Baltimore is attacking those people in those schemes. So, yeah, okay, I like that, Bobby. Flip that crap on its head.
Yeah, we're going
How much will the potential weather conditions affect play calling?
the operation as normal. I probably would have adjusted things if maybe yesterday's practice went a little different, but it didn't really affect anybody. It's just a little colder, ball's a little harder. So we went out there and everything operated fine.
D'Amico said that they didn't do anything different with like the balls practicing the wet ball or anything. And I don't think there would be a reason to, because there's not precipitation forecast. I do wonder, though, we've already seen a little gamesmanship out of D'Amico. Remember last week he was asked about moving Stingley and traveling with Cooper, and he pulled a little bit of a Southern Belle. Said, well, that's just the scheme we run. We just don't we don't do that. So that's just that's not in our playbook. And then boom, what do? There's Stingley left, right, all over the place. Beautiful. It's gamesmanship by D'Amico. I was a little too afraid that D'Amico might be too honest for his own good. So I don't know. They might have been out there practicing with bloated sponges, getting ready for potential weather conditions.
Talking a lot about their defense. Obviously, it's spectacular that they lead the league in turnover margin. How much is their remarkable personnel, and how much is these deceptive looks that they get where they try to get you maybe to guess and slow down just a little bit as you try to figure out where they're sending pressure, etc.
Okay, so that was Greg Bally asking on how much of the Ravens' defensive success is. Sorry, let me get these transcripts over here. Greg Bally asked on how much of the Ravens' defensive success is predicated on their personnel versus the disguise looks they tend to give. Very, very good at disguise. Very deceitful.
It's always a mix. It's always both. You could have great players and not necessarily be used in the best way. And you could still be good, but maybe, lack turnovers, or maybe you rely on turnovers and you're not as good consistently down in, down out. Or it could go the other way. You could have a great scheme and maybe you need some more elite players across the board to help you out there. But I think Baltimore has both. I think they go hand in hand. They got guys that really command what they do. I think it's a very smart system, a smart scheme. What they do, they make it hard. They try to get you to situational football, which I really think is going to be key to the game. Third downs, red zone, short yardage, stuff like that. And when you stack drives together, they extend drives long enough. Like, it's hard to get chunks. So they extend drives long enough where eventually they force you, to try to make a throw into a tight area. And they got guys that are fast, rangy, big. I mean, all of it. And they can all make plays on the ball. They all consistently make plays on the ball. So I think it all goes hand in hand. The deceptive looks definitely are part of what we're talking about, especially when we get to situational football, making sure we have command of what's going on there, talking to the quarterback about when is the right time to maybe push it and when's the right time where they got us on this one and we got to make sure we protect the team. And I think there's a balance there when you go against a really good defense like this.
That's where, okay, two things. One, CJ Stroud, I think, has just grown by leaps and bounds by rookie quarterback standards. And knowing when he's been fooled. There's sometimes you think you're going to get a certain look and you don't, and that's when you got to be sure that you don't force it there. And we've seen very rare instances of CJ either panicking or throwing into situations that he didn't understand. That throw to Noah was probably the one that was the most curious. That's the only really curious throw he's had since he came back from concussion. And I think maybe that got away from him a little bit, but other than that, it's been relatively fine. On the defensive side of things for the Texans, yeah, everything that Bobby just said about Mike McDonald's Ravens is where D'Amico's defense is headed. But you got to have enough of those kind of super high football IQ guys, especially their safeties. Their safeties play all over the place. And Kyle Hamilton, who maybe had been close to being a Texan, we won't worry about that. He plays up in the box. He's in a lot of ways, they use him, I think, the way maybe Jalen Petrie ends up being used. They use him up in the box. They use him as the slot corner a lot. He doesn't play free that much. The other two safeties play kind of all over the place, but those two guys will be a free safety more than Kyle Hamilton will. So they'll use Kyle Hamilton in a lot of different ways. They use their linebackers to be super, super rangy. And they can play a bunch of different coverages. They disguise really well because they're coached really well and they're bright guys. With D'Amico's defense, we're starting to see that. One of the things that they were able to do in that last game was start to rotate the safeties more and disguise the looks that they were giving Joe Flacco. It's something that I think D'Amico's had to strike this balance between guys who are new to the defense and guys who are young, and then some guys that frankly just maybe need to be replaced over the next year or two. It's been a slower process in building that, but it's really cool because a lot of the stuff they've been doing, especially down at the ends of these last couple games, that last drive, and I know Jonathan Taylor was banged up, but there was a lot of other really good stuff on that, including how they were using Jalen Petrie. That's really cool to see. It's just everything right now in the defense is still they need another year to build, but the Ravens, I think, are in some respects are what the Texans, I almost called them 49ers. Texans will start to look like soon.
We talked all year about how Nico Collins has had this breakthrough year. From an intangible standpoint, what have you seen in recent weeks about how he stepped to the forefront and received?
Nothing.
He was asked, could you talk about how Nico Collins has progressed through the year? Let me back it up a little bit. So let me see. I'll read it off the transcript. He was asked about what he's seen from Nico Collins from an intangible standpoint.
What have you seen in recent weeks about how he stepped to the forefront and received?
Nothing's really been different. I mean, he's been a steady build all the way through the year. I think his confidence just keeps growing and growing and growing. He gets a little more outgoing as he gets a little more comfortable. But really, Nico's been the same guy he's been all year. He's just getting angrier. That's all. Which keep getting angrier, please.
Yeah. This is the Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk part of Nico that's going to be really cool. He's like George Kittle, except he's a receiver, but he's got that same passion for just really wanting to bully. Because let's be honest, that's what George Kittle does. He bullies dudes who are much smaller than him. I know, and I love it, but I feel like sometimes people act like George Kittle is out there fighting lumberjacks or something. He's mostly trucking guys that he outweighs by 40 to 50 pounds, and Nico's that guy, except he's faster. So, yeah, I'm all for it. And these poor DBs, they're not even allowed to tackle properly anymore. So they just have to sit there and take it. They have to come running at people with their heads up like this. Hi, Josh Allen. I'm going to attack. Oh, crap. I'd hate to play defense now.
Earlier, and you mentioned in the past, it took probably around weeks 3 for you and CJ to really kind of get on the same page. What were the conversations like? What did you?
Yeah, I'm going to read the transcript on this one, everybody. Don't worry.
Were you able to change to get to the point to where you are right now?
Yeah.
This is a long question. Let's see. That question, I love, I love how some of the guys they're asking. It's good for them to explain their questions and everything, so they get a clear answer. But it's funny because in the transcripts, they'll take all that and condense it down to what were some of the things he and C.J. Stroud adjusted and worked on early in the season to get to the point where they're at now.
I mean, we changed pretty much immediately after our Week 1 Baltimore game, kind of how we were attacking and approaching some things. Our conversations have always been the same. It just takes time. And I know CJ is the ultimate preparer. You know, he's not a rookie in that regard. He's a rookie in that every lesson he learns, he really tries hard to bank. Like he puts a lot into making a mistake and making sure he doesn't make the same mistake twice. But he prepares like a vet. He prepares like someone who's been in the league 6, 7, 8 years, and that speeds up all our conversations. You know, like I feel like I'm talking to another coach. So our back and forths are usually pretty quick. He understands what I'm saying. I understand what he's saying. We understand how to communicate quickly. And if we want to make an adjustment and kind of find a middle ground, sometimes we'll find a middle ground. That part really just took time. And the more we grew in our rapport, similar to the rest of the offense with CJ, it just became tighter and clearer what we wanted to do.
Man, Bobby, listen, money's nice, but I have a relationship like that. You're just on the same wavelength. You're gonna end up with some rookie that doesn't know his ass from his forehead, from a cover 2 to a cover 3 to a cover 0, and he's gonna have a bad attitude, Bobby. Whichever rookie you think is out there, like what's gonna be better than what you've got right here in front of you, right? Can you acknowledge the importance of relationships? Oh, all I'm asking you is to turn down $40-50 million. What? It'll be out there. There's who's ever messed up like Sam Darnold or anybody in making a decision to wait. Yeah, or not Sam Darnold. Who's the USC quarterback? Barkley, right? Matt Barkley. Yeah, I do think that he's got to really love this relationship with CJ and understand and realize, man, he's going to have other opportunities. It's just a matter of whether somebody gives him something that he can't turn down. Does he just get an offer like from Washington where you got a number 2 overall pick, and hell, they'll trade up to number 1 overall if they have to, if the Bears are open to it, and an absurd amount of money. I don't know, man. I don't know. D'Amico did it, and Ben Johnson did it, but I don't know how clear it was that like those guys were going to get offers 2 years ago. You know, D'Amico, it was his first year on the interview circuit. Ben Johnson, likewise. And I wonder if they both felt, A, that they needed a little bit more grooming, and B, that maybe they didn't really feel like they were getting serious interviews. And maybe that's how Slowik feels the same way. You know, it could help is McDaniel. I don't know. Maybe McDaniel felt like he wasn't really prepared, or maybe Bobby looks at McDaniel and thinks like, wow, you know, maybe McDaniel would have liked to actually have a little bit more time to prepare to be a head coach as opposed to an offensive coordinator who happens to have the title head coach. I'm really trying to talk myself into this because, man, that sounds good the way he talks about his relationship with CJ.
Can you talk about Metchie and just his growth and how much his performance in a game like the one on Saturday helps him in terms of continuing to progress in his offense?
Yeah, I think it's huge. You know, confidence is.
Sorry, I got distracted. I think Chris Jones has a good sense of humor, so he doesn't. Oh, that's right. That was the you know, he can't hear you. That was one of our listeners said that his wife his wife says that to him when he yells at the TV. And Sean and I recommended that he get divorced. Sean and I would be good marriage counselors. What was this then? So that was is this the one about John Metchie? Yeah. Okay. Yep. On how wide receiver John Metchie's performance on Saturday continued to help him progress and grow as a player.
Is big in the NFL.
Just his growth and how much his performance in a game like the one on Saturday helps him in terms of continuing to progress in his offense.
Yeah, I think it's huge. You know, confidence is big in the NFL. You're surrounded by a whole lot of people that are really good at what they do, and they're the best in the world at what they do. And confidence plays a big role in that. And I think everybody knows what Metchie's been through. And it was awesome that he was able to come back for camp, and unfortunately had to grind through some things in camp. And then he comes back during the season, and he's still grinding. And you can just see. He took, what was it, like 18 months or something like that off football. Like, you could see that in his legs, and there's not much you could do. He worked his tail off, and he's continued working to kind of get his legs back under him, get some strength back, be able to fight through some contact. His routes became sharper and sharper. He put a lot of time in to make sure he got to where he is now, and that's not easy. You know, it's like he showed up and was able to step on the field again, and you kind of think the battle's over, but then it's not. You got to keep going, and that's what's been really unbelievable to watch. Is, you know, he never stops. It's constant how he's trying to work, how he's trying to grow, and it was really awesome to see that kind of bear some fruit there in the game on Saturday. That was a big time play he made down the sidelines. I know his carry was a big carry. Like, he's always been reliable in our run game. He's been one of our best run game blockers. What he's done for this team, I think a lot of people have noticed. It's really been an inspiration to all of us.
All right. So we saw the balloons earlier, and then somebody found a thumbs up. I appreciate all that. Metchie, I'm glad he mentioned that about Metchie, because two things about that. One was him getting open, especially on that throw to the right. Boy, that was a masterful job of both scheme and CJ just stepping up into a really, it was like he was going through a crevasse on Everest or something and then just threw it. But Metchie, I do think, man, this is going to be a weird thing to say, and yet I believe it. I think we have a tendency sometimes to forget that cancer is really, really hard to come back from. And because they're having guys that have come back and played within a year or so, and done well, you know, to where it looks like they don't miss a beat. But I also think, you know, like with David Quesenberry, and I don't know how good Quesenberry would have been if he never had cancer, but he did end up being in the NFL for a long time afterwards. But it was a good 2 or 3 years at least before he started getting real playing opportunities. So with Metchie, who was also coming off that ACL, and wasn't, you know, a lightning fast guy to begin with. He was always going to have to be a guy that was really nails with his route running and everything. I think it just, part of it might just be, man, that cancer treatment takes a hell of a lot out of you, and it's not as simple as just coming back, especially in this damn heat. Those guys are outside every day.
Bobby, you talk about the 101 level, 505 level. I was never smart enough to take the 500 level classes, but I also think about, you know, they say freshmen are no longer freshmen when you get to a bowl game. How much more comfortable do you feel now as opposed to when you started in this role? Like, do you feel like you've grown, like they say, he's no longer a rookie anymore?
Yeah, I don't.
Okay, I'll read the transcript for that one. Something about being comfortable in his role. How much more comfortable do you feel in your role now than when you first started, was the question.
I don't think you ever fully get comfortable. You know, there's always a little bit of some urgency, some making sure you're crossing all your I's, or crossing all your T's, dotting all your I's, all that good stuff. I don't think you're ever fully there, but I think what really makes you confident is when you just have complete faith and belief in the group you're coaching. That, like, really, I feel like we could roll out there and I can call anything, and they are going to find a way to make it work, you know, and that's really what's been fun. That's what's been empowering. They're all in on what we want to do. I mean, it's the offensive group and kind of where we are right now is I think they're playing really good football. And they're all kind of special people. We've come a long way all the way across the board. We've had a lot of people in and out through the season, and really everyone's just bought into continuing to get better. And now, you know, as coaches, we kind of sit back and we watch, and it's entirely a player-led offense, and they just go out and they play awesome football. It's been fun to be a part of. Thanks, everybody.
The one thing about D'Amico and kind of the attitude that he has around the team, I think this year it's been interesting to watch. I feel like at times they may have started to feel, the team and the young guys might have started to feel a little bit too much like, we've arrived, because they're for a while there was some erratic week to week play and preparedness. And I think especially like sometimes I could tell defensively that there were weeks where they were dialed in like crazy on their keys and perhaps some of the offensive tells. And then there were other weeks where it just looked really, really sloppy. Jets game obviously was just an abomination defensively. And it happened offensively. I think when you have as many young players as you do, you should expect that. Defensively, it was where it was a little bit of a disappointment to me. But for the most part, on this, the sum total of it is that I think D'Amico's ability to kind of ignore a lot of the BS, including just some of the old school, like never wanting anybody to feel good about yourself. Like it's I always had coaches that just always wanted to be sure you didn't feel too good about yourself. Just whatever you do, just remember at the core of it all, you really, really suck. Okay, keep your edge. Like you got to find that balance between Popovich would call it the appropriate level of fear. You always want to have that appropriate level of fear. You want to be confident, but you also want to remember and know that, man, you can really get your butt kicked in any given week, no matter who you're playing if you're not prepared. And it was cool to see. I think that's where the team really evolved after that Jets game. And, obviously that first Cleveland game a couple weeks later didn't go so hot, but there were issues. So I like that part in the consistency they've had with CJ since he came back. I feel really good about that. This is a huge challenge. Like this is a big challenge this week versus the Ravens. But like the more, and I told you guys I start off every week like thinking about everything that's awesome about the opponent and build them up in my mind. So I've got the appropriate level of fear. And like this is the time of the week where I start looking at what CJ's done. And I look at what Bobby Slowik did as a play caller, and I start to get really excited about the potential for them to upset the Ravens. And I think the Ravens are 9 or 10 point favorites for a reason, justifiably so. They've put it on some of the best teams in the league. And I don't know if the Dolphins were genuinely one of the best teams in the league, but they really put it on the Ravens or the 49ers. But it wasn't too long ago that the Browns went in and beat them. It's getting a long time ago now, but beat them in Baltimore. So I'm really excited about just watching CJ and Bobby get some of these questions here. Let's see. Metchie had a lot to overcome, basically completing, starting over. Yeah. We will see if he wants to stay and win versus go get the money and hope to find a team that is what the Texans are. I know, man. Listen. This is the tough thing about the NFL. And, Kyle Shanahan has to deal with this every year. It's that you want to be a place that's inviting to really talented, young, up-and-coming coaches. And to do that, you've got to just accept that, all right, they're going to fly the coop eventually. And, I don't worry about the Texans' ability to either bring Gerard Johnson along as an offensive coordinator. Maybe it ends up being Case Keenum or somebody from outside the organization. I just more worry about the loss of consistency just for these 2 years. This first 2 years where you could really just cement everything and make one of you guys yesterday or a couple days ago said, make CJ the expert in this system as much as he works and studies and everything, and with him, it's like from everything Bobby Slowik says, you can tell it's not like the Instagram study where people love to brag about how much film they were watching or how they were grinding or anything like that. Like this is the offensive coordinator realizing that when the kid comes in the building in the morning that he's been doing the work the night before. That just sticks out like a sore thumb when somebody's that prepared that the guy's putting the work in. So like one more year to really nail a bunch of it down with Bobby working alongside of him. That's all I'm hoping for. And, CJ said it himself in his press conference last week. He's still a rookie. He kind of reminded all of us and everybody in the press area. They're like, hey, I'm still a rookie, Let's see. We all work for money. The man wants that head coach money. I think there were times when the rookies were really exhausted mentally and physically. Then they made it through that. That's a good point, Scott. I think Will Anderson got up and said that he doesn't believe in the rookie wall. Because how could you not have energy come? How could you not be excited to come in? I do wonder. Will has a freakish amount of energy. I don't know if there's any human being that has as much There's no human being that size that has as much energy as Will Anderson. There's plenty of guys, horse jockey sized guys and everything that have that much energy. But for a guy that big, yeah, like I feel like he could. He's like LeBron body mass size, at least not as tall as LeBron actually. But you know, LeBron has issues in the heat sometimes. Like I don't think Will Anderson would have those issues. If you love the game, I think it will trump money. I guess it's an interesting one to try to put yourself into, isn't it? Because the other side of the equation is whenever there's a jackass college kid who can't seem to control himself, like Johnny Manziel, what you hear people say all the time is, "Hey, when I was that age, I was doing stuff way worse than him." So I always have to remind people there are, I think, about 3 million 22-year-olds in America right now. Only one of them is going to be the number one overall pick in the draft. So, like, I don't think how we were as 22-year-olds should be the bar for judging. Like, the average 22-year-old college kid shouldn't be the bar that you judge, like, the number one overall pick that's going to get 40 million guaranteed by. So, likewise, like, I don't know if I can put myself in a coach's situation, and everybody's going to be different and be facing all that money for the first time in your life, money like that, and just say, like, all right, well, I could take care of my family forever. But these guys all have, like, I mean, a lot of them have, like, super supportive wives who are super supportive about their careers. Like, and his wife might be the one that's like, listen, Bobby, you know what you want. Like, you want to, like, our plan is to become an awesome coordinator and then become a head coach. And we need to wait a year. Like the wife that stands by her husband while he's poor in medical school and all that. Like, so Mrs. Slowik is who we need to work on. We need to get a hold of Mrs. Slowik. Can you guys start a letter writing campaign of some sort? And then we got to get Bob McNair or Cal McNair and Bob, whatever. We'll pray to Bob to give him a boatload of money, like head coach money for a year. You get head coach salary for a year and then go off and do whatever the hell you want next year. As a native lifelong Texans fan in New York, I went to that Jets game and it was so soul sucking and the rain made it 1,000 times worse. Figgy from 610. I point back there because that's usually where he works, is in the studio across the hall. When he and Landry and Lopez went to that game, they were there too. And they had to get on a plane right afterwards, soaking wet. That was mad. That was bad. Who is getting angry? Oh, Bobby, that was Nico. That's why I put Nico on the thumbnail. I didn't know if that would be clear or not. So on the thumbnail, I put Nico, a picture of Nico, and Bobby Slowik mentioned that Nico's getting angrier. That's the only change really that he's seen in him this year so far. Oh, do you guys want me to play the Lamar Jackson? Because I've got time now. Do you want me to play the Lamar Jackson press conference from earlier this week? Is the challenge against the Ravens bigger than any other team to possibly meet in the championship game or Super Bowl? The 49ers, man, the thing about the 49ers, because for one, that was a game. I got to go back and watch that game more closely. The Ravens versus the 49ers. Credit to the Ravens they won that game. I don't think the score was necessarily reflective of exactly how it went, but they won that game. So, but the 49ers are still a hell of a team. And I think if they play the Ravens in the Super Bowl, it's not going to be the same outcome, or it's not the same score at least. But the Bobby Slowik versus Kyle Shanahan, and then DeMeco Ryans versus Kyle Shanahan. Who's got the edge there? Man, DeMeco and Kyle, the one thing about Shanahan is they compete. Like the defense, they go at it in practice. Like they are trying to beat the other guy. There's none of this hey, could you be sure you run? Just be sure you don't blitz too much because my offensive linemen lack confidence. That's something that used to happen with your Texans, ladies and gentlemen. There was a year where the offensive coaches didn't want us to be too mean to the offense. And I did not take it well. Seth taking it too hard at what Bobby's saying about CJ. Bobby and Slowick are now both on the same page and both communicating way better. Facts are we're going to beat them Ravens point blank. Why am I taking it too hard? Are those two, Ruben, are those sentences related, or is the first sentence standalone and then your second one, because I don't think I was nothing I said about Bobby and CJ should have made you feel like I don't think they can beat the Ravens. I'm curious. Ruben. You need to explain yourself. Explain yourself, Ruben. The Texans will play the Ravens head up if they can keep Lamar somewhat in the pocket. If he runs wild, it's going to be a long day. Yeah. Okay. So Lamar Jackson, and where has he gotten better? Okay. So much of where he's gotten better starts with Todd Monken being his offensive coordinator. So I watched this video of Jordan Palmer before the season talking about how he didn't think that he was ever going to that Lamar, because of his mechanics, wasn't going to develop as a quarterback. I'm paraphrasing there, so I apologize if I get Jordan's intentions wrong there. But I think that like I don't think Jackson really needs to change his mechanics all that much, because he's so freakishly talented. He had his accuracy his completion percentage this year was back to where it was when he was an MVP. They're using much more of the field. They have a much more diverse offense than when Greg Roman was the offensive coordinator. And even though he still led the league in rushing yards by a quarterback, it was different. It was less of the option that he took when everything else fell apart, and more of a planned affair, I think. And when he chose to run, when he was improvising, it was running to stay alive, to throw, or at times it was more just pocket movement within the pocket instead of trying to escape the pocket altogether. There were just a lot of areas of his game that just looked a lot smoother and more like what you hoped you would get with a new offensive coordinator. And Monken was probably the perfect guy, because this is the biggest thing where you talk about opening up this offense. They used to face like heavy loaded boxes all the time. 8 men in the box, because they used heavy personnel, and there was this feeling that they're going to run to set up the play action. They've turned much more into a pass to set up the run, or spread to set up the run. So when they run now, it's not like a big rugby scrum the way it sometimes was in the past. They've got space and room to run. So that's been interesting to see. A lot of what I think, he kind of jokingly said he wanted to throw for 6,000 yards, and maybe he did at that point. What's happened is it hasn't turned into like a high flying offense, but they balance the run and pass really, really well. It's not, they don't have a ton of, the Texans have more passing touchdowns than the Ravens. The Ravens ended up being the eighth scoring offense. No, they were like fifth scoring offense. They're eighth in the red zone. But they do it with a really good combination of the run and pass. The big thing for the Texans in facing Lamar, and especially versus week 1, this is where I'm hoping a little bit. It's almost impossible not for some overconfidence not to creep in when you thoroughly beat somebody. And because you saw it with the Browns, it was almost like they forgot that CJ hadn't played. And it felt like they almost went in just assuming they were going to beat the snot out of the Texans, because they had done it the last time when the Texans were playing their second and third string quarterback in a rotation. So like it happens. And what this defense can do is they can disguise their coverages a lot better than they could in week 1. These last few weeks, they've really they've done it as the game has progressed. Last week, they didn't do a lot of it early on. They played kind of vanilla defense, and then they started kind of turning the screws when they felt they needed to. And then all of a sudden, there you go. You got 2 pick sixes in a row. So I think there can be a little bit of an ambush quality with Lamar, but he's playing very, very, very well. Y'all go home. Let's go Ravens. Dom Capers days. Yeah, Dom was, but it wasn't Dom's fault. It was, okay, so that video of that's floating around of CJ or of D'Amico mic'd up where he's telling Christian Harris to jump the route, where he was on the sideline saying just do this. You're gonna score 6. You're gonna get a touchdown. And he did it. So there's times where you tell offensive coaches hey coach, you're trying to help them out, guys on your own team, hey coach, I can tell when you guys are in this formation, exactly, we know what's happening here. Or sometimes I did it in a game once. to the offensive coordinator because like, their audibles were just like it was just so plainly obvious that the defense was lining up in a front. The Texans were audibling, same audible every time to a play that the defense knew was coming, and they just kept doing it over and over again. I'm like, Coach, I'm standing on the sideline here and I can tell what you're doing, and he just looked at me like, what am I going to do with that? Like, change your freaking audibles. I don't know. The offensive coaches sometimes they work work very, very, very hard, but sometimes I think they assume defensive players are dumber than they think. I can't see this last one. Oh, there we go. Lamar is not a playoff quarterback. Watch him choke this big time. This is where I'm careful, guys. I appreciate the confidence. I do think you got to be really careful in thinking that Lamar's 1-3 record in the playoffs is like something that wasn't also connected to Greg Roman being his offensive coordinator. Because I think that because the passing game wasn't evolved enough with Lamar, good teams in the playoffs were kind of able to dictate terms and take away what Lamar wanted to do. This offense is a lot different, and it's a lot harder to just point out and say, like, okay, we're going to take this away and, force him to throw outside the numbers or what have you. And because that's another problem now, too. He's throwing really well outside the numbers. Texans saw that in week 1. Texans got kind of slammed in week 1. So I'm not I'm not sitting here I'm not trying to say like it's impossible to beat him or anything. I'm just saying recognize it's not as simple as like, oh yeah, Lamar Jackson sucks in the playoffs because 3 years ago was the last time he played in the playoffs. It's a good team. They just like it's going to be as much about the coaching, and Bobby Slowik especially, I think, is potentially like if he's a hot candidate now, then it's going to be a fever pitch if he puts one on the Ravens, which will be fun to see. Here we go. I will take the disrespect. If the Texans play like they have the last 3 games, they'll beat the Ravens. The Texans have the better quarterback. See that? I like that. D'Amico or CJ and Lamar's numbers, including the first CJ's first playoff game, are eerily similar, other than the rushing touchdowns, I'm sure. But the yards per attempt, completion percentage, QBR, like all those, like they're very, very closely matched on that. And this is the thing, CJ did it without a rushing attack to speak of, and certainly without the legs that Lamar Jackson has. So for just pure passing, yeah, I would take CJ because he's not counterbalanced by an incredible defense on the other side of him, and he also doesn't have the rushing attack. So separate the quarterback running from it. CJ's got to do more of it with his actual quarterbacking ability. So I'll take you on that one, my friend. I don't think the Ravens are really prepared for what John Weeks is going to bring. Did we solve the balloon mystery? Not entirely. They showed up once. They showed up once earlier. All right, it's time to watch a little bit of Lamar Jackson. If we can pull this up. All right, Lamar. There's some guy that starts off Lamar Jackson's press conference. Google Chrome would like to record this computer's screen and audio. Okay. Grant access to this application. Oh, okay. There we go. Google Chrome may not be able to record the contents of your screen until it is quit. All right, everybody. Oh, I know what's going on. I've got 2 different Chrome accounts open. So if you're just getting here, this is a live video of me struggling to get Lamar Jackson up on the screen, but we're just about to do it, okay? So don't you go off to anywhere else. We're going to share this tab. Lamar Jackson. Okay. Oh, now I'm excited. That was like relatively easy. Tell me if you guys hear the audio on this when I start playing it, please. I haven't started playing it yet. Okay. This is the guy introducing Lamar Jackson.
Expect the vote was unanimous, but I know as much as this individual will say he didn't do it alone, I think it's pretty clear the Ravens wouldn't be in the spot they're in right now as the number 1 seed heading into the postseason without his spectacular play over the course of the season. So I have a hunch he might get a few more honors over the course of the next few weeks, but the 2023 Ravens MVP, as voted by the local media, is Lamar Jackson.
Appreciate you, Luke. Appreciate you, man.
He just won.
Thank y'all. It's an honor.
I don't know what he was. I wasn't listening. I was checking out your comments because somebody said, okay, Lumineer said that if you make the peace sign, you get the balloons. Oh, what do I do? So if I do the thumbs up, do I get the thumb? Whoa. All right. Well, thank you, Lumineer. Well, that was great. Okay. So the volume, somebody said it is good volume. All we have to do, oh yeah, we have to pressure. Okay, this one real quick. Why does everyone downplay what the Texas team has accomplished just because it's Houston? It's too good to be true. I don't know who's downplaying it, Black Eighth Element. I don't. Who's down? Like honestly, I feel like people are seeking it out because for the most part, they're like the darlings nationally. People really love CJ Stroud. Embrace the love. Take it in. Feel it. Just it's very, very good. It's very good. People are very excited about the Texans. It's just that also, like, you have to recognize too that the Ravens are a really damn good football team. Like, it's just two things can be true. The Texans can be doing something awesome. The Ravens can be an awesome football team, and the two shall collide. There you go. You guys watch too much. You know what? It's too much. I think it's comic book movies. I think in the comic book movies, they don't do a good enough job of painting out the complexity of life. And you just want one team to suck and one team to be awesome. Here's Lamar Jackson.
Appreciate y'all so much, man. Y'all mean a lot to us, in the community. So I just want to thank y'all.
Nice that it's unanimous, so you don't have to ask which one of us didn't vote for you.
I appreciate that. It means a lot, man. That's love. I appreciate that.
Well, what's your focus this week?
Just getting better. We had a couple of days off, but just getting back in the swing of things. Just staying loose. Staying prepared for the game. Next week. That's all. Just staying focused on that. Small things, clean up details and stuff like that.
How you celebrated your birthday?
I just hung out with my family. That's all I did, and I enjoyed it. Yeah.
That thing you've talked about, not looking ahead, staying zeroed in on the moment. Do you think you're better at that today than you were when you're 22, 23 years old?
I say, okay, I feel better about sometimes, like we all ask in the media, we all ask dumb questions at times, but I feel better about our questions than this bullshit.
Yeah, just from experience though. That's why I say I'm better at it now. Probably when I was 22, it was like, I'm just gonna stay locked in. But you 22 years old, you still got so much to see, even at 27. But just how things went before, and me seeing different things, that's what's got me so lazy, locked down.
Yeah, and again, like I think, what I think of is Kyler Murray. Like I just don't like I heard enough out of Arizona that I don't think Kyler Murray was really. I don't think he had the opportunity to really learn about a pro offense. Kingsbury does some awesome stuff that works in college. But when it comes to like what you actually really need to be doing and looking at in the offense you need to be running in the NFL, he just never came close to it. So like the stories I heard this year about how they handled Kyler Murray was that, okay, he's getting a full blown indoctrination into NFL offensing. And so I'm intrigued to see. So with Lamar Jackson, I think Greg Roman does some really, really good stuff. But I think there was always a question whether it was Greg Roman holding Lamar Jackson back or whether Lamar Jackson wasn't capable of handling like more and doing a more diverse offense. And like this year with Monken's doing a bunch of different looks with him, and they'll do zone read. They'll do RPOs. They'll spread it out. They'll load up. They'll load it up and run power. Like they just do a lot of different things. They have a very diverse attack compared to what they used to be.
Bart, your impressions of Dalvin Cook, now teammate?
Awesome. 9-5-4-3-05 combination going on. You know, Miami, Broward County. I'm really excited. You know, I was happy about the situation. I reached out to him before the season, you know, with the little Jets and, you know, when he was signing with Jets or whatever before then. But, you know, God works in mysterious ways and, you know, he's here now. So that's dope.
I forgot about the whole, okay. So the Dalvin Cook part of, you know, Lamar was trying to like, they signed Odell Beckham Jr. before they had redone Lamar. Lamar did his contract. Dalvin Cook was out there, went to the Jets. Yeah, like they could have had DeAndre Hopkins if the timing had been different. I think, you know, like I think they went after Odell Beckham Jr. because DeAndre Hopkins had already. When was the? Yeah, Odell. Yeah, that's right. The timing was. Sorry, everybody. This is ridiculous. Let's go.
Any of the 4 playoff runs that you had and played before, you started even scouting ahead, or is it sort of like, hey, when things shake out, you learn about some of these things, start beginning that process?
Yeah, absolutely. When things, you know, kick off and we see who we're gonna play, then I'll just be locking in from there. And I don't want to just be watching film on teams, and we're not gonna be playing them. I don't want my mind racing and stuff like that. You know, trying to stay locked in on what's going on now.
That's a good attitude. You get clouds. That's just. Yeah, I heard. I read somebody that said it was a very, very good tip for people with ADHD, because I've always heard about eliminating distraction and everything, but this guy said eliminate choice. Like just eliminate choice. Let go of this illusion that you need all these choices, because all you're going to want to do is take everyone. You'll choose all 10 things if you have 10 choices. So eliminate as many choices as possible. Lamar Jackson doesn't have ADHD that I know of, but like just focusing in and dialing in on the Houston Texans this weekend. I wish he hadn't, but the pass rush is the X factor. As I saw a couple of you pointing out, I get really excited when I think about the Texans pass rush, especially given that Jonathan Grenard actually had some really good rushes against Ronnie Stanley at left tackle in the first 3 quarters of the last game. Will Anderson got his first sack in like a beastly way, and now is like a completely different pass rusher than he was then. So the edge rush, and not to mention Derek Barnett. Okay, that's despite the fact that the Ravens have quality offensive tackles. I don't know. Grenard's had some success against Stanley.
After the game, those of us that were here in 2019,
Stanley's banged up too.
we remember what happened then. What can you learn, or what can you take away from thinking back to that time?
These are better questions ever since the birthday one.
We lost. You know, we lost that game, man. We were so young too. You know, we got rookie receiver, a second year, first full-time starting quarterback. We had a couple vets, but running back was young. Got Gus. You know, we had Mark. Mark was like hurt. You know, our all-pro tight end Mark Andrews was, you know, nipped up. Like we had guys that was down, but guys was fighting, and we was young at the same time. We was just starting to get into that situation, you know, playoff atmosphere and stuff like that. But I believe we're gonna be better now this time around.
Lamar matured since 2019 as a quarterback. What would you say that maturity has looked like?
The big thing, real quick, like when he's talking about receivers, that's the other big difference is that they it's not like they hadn't tried. I mean, they drafted receivers before, you know, whether it's Hollywood Brown or anybody else, that it just didn't quite work out. But Rashad Bateman, Odell Beckham Jr., Zay Flowers, of course, and Nelson Aguilar, like they've just got a better complement of guys, and then that goes along with the fact that they use the tight ends real heavily. The run game works, so he's got better options. I think he's got a better offensive coordinator, a better professional offensive coordinator, and he's taking advantage of it. He's probably this quarterback has always been in there. He just needed the right circumstances to bring it out.
Like for you, how are you different as a quarterback from then, besides just you?
How am I different now? Experience, I'm gonna say. Just knowing more, you know, just from seeing so much. In my 6 years, just seeing a lot. I say that's where I've grown the most.
So Dalvin Cook, how much impact do you think? I mean, he'll have 2 weeks of practice before that playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
How much impact do you think he can make?
Man, ain't no telling. Ain't no telling. You know, with our offense, the guys we have on offense, the offensive line we have, and him just being a dynamic player he is, the sky's the limit. You know, there's no limit for that. I don't know. You know, I believe when he get his opportunity, his numbers called, he gonna do what he do. You know, cook up.
Lamar, your offensive line is giving you a lot of time to throw.
Yeah.
A number of times this year, especially late. How important has that been, and how would you describe, I guess, the relationship that you have with them in terms of that?
It's very important for our guys to do their job. You know that.
If you couldn't hear that, he asked about how important is the job the offensive line has done for him.
They're supposed to block. You know, it's not my job to block, drop back, read coverage, and block at the same time. You know, but them just giving me a lot of time to read out concepts and read the defenses and get the ball to my guys. It's tremendous. You know, I feel like that's any quarterback's dream, to just sit back in the pocket and just let things happen, develop, and just throw strikes. But I believe they got better throughout the season. You know, guys going down, you know, just getting healthy at the right time and just blocking their tail off. We just need to keep it going.
Okay, rust. I don't really like the topic of whether guys should sit or whether they'll be rusty or fresh or what matters most. I think for offensive linemen, I'd lean towards suspecting that the rust is bad for them, because like blitz pickup's a complicated thing, and I would equate it to like pilots. They have to fly a certain amount to stay current, and when they don't fly, like their skills erode pretty quickly, and that's something that requires a whole lot of keeping track of multiple things and fine motor control and all of that. And like offensive line is a little bit in the same way, because you got to track multiple things. You got to be really on it, sharp mentally. That maybe the blitz pickup in some of the games, as the Texans have gotten, I think D'Amico's started to get a really good feel for the appropriate times to blitz, when, at what point in the game. So that might be an issue. That might be of an area to exploit,
Lamar, aside from team
because they don't need to be fresh. They don't do anything. Offensive linemen,
MVP,
passive affair.
first team All-Pro by the NFLPA, voted by players. What does that mean to you?
That's a lot. It means a lot. You know, respect for my peers. You know, guys who we trying to beat. You know, guys trying to beat us. Who we facing. You know, week in, week out. It means a lot. It's an honor.
We saw some of your interview with Tom Brady. You've been open about, kind of how impressed you've been with him and how you look up to him. Is there another player that you could think of that kind of gets you kind of in that same mode that you get in when you're talking to Tom Brady?
Seth Payne.
I don't know. You know, that's a 7-time Super Bowl winning quarterback right there. You know, nobody beat that. So, you know, it's like, you're going to be excited talking to Tom, man. You know,
Be awesome if Peyton Manning was like actually in the press corps.
Try to pick his brain or something like that. So I'm just always excited to speak to him.
You know, he said to you on the podcast that, you're one of the reasons that people like watching the NFL, and the way that you play. What does it mean to you when you have, the GOAT saying to you that, showing his respect for you and that he really admires your game?
Yeah, it was an honor. You know, I told him that. He was telling me about a clip from high school that went viral. I wasn't expecting him to say that, so that let me know, he's been watching a long time, that's just cool, for Brady to, feel that way about me as a player. That means a lot.
I wonder if Brady's seeing like Lamar Jackson as a young player. Like, I wonder, that's one of those things that you just know, the game is changing. And I wonder if it like sharpened his, like Brady's the kind of guy that I think would take that and look at it and be impressed, and also realize like, okay, I'm gonna be that much better of a pass now, because like the kid's really impressive, but I'm not gonna let this young punk come in and be better than me.
Record number of black quarterbacks in the playoffs this year. I'm wondering, is that encouraging to see, and do you sort of take pride watching a guy maybe like CJ Stroud, who is a rookie and made it in his first year?
Yeah, that's great to see. Life's just just different now. Stuff is evolving. Guys are just being great. Just showing off their true talent. And CJ Stroud, tremendous quarterback. I told him when we played against him earlier this season, first game of the season, I'm like, bro, you amazing out there. College not even nothing compared to how he is right now. Just from me watching from afar, he's a great quarterback, and for other black quarterbacks to be playing in the playoffs, that's tremendous. Hopefully more guys be included as years go on.
Jair Franklin and EJ Speed were talking about that. Those of you that saw my video yesterday or today, Jair Franklin was talking about how he likes to hate the guys he's going against, but at the same time, he's proud of like a lot of these young black quarterbacks, but he still also wants to hate them. So he's conflicted. He's very funny talking about it.
You know, this is your most accurate year in terms of
Wants to hate them because they're his opponents. Not
completion percentage. How much of that do you think is attributable to the footwork development that you've kind of put in over the years?
I believe everything, plays its part. Just maturity, footwork, studying, everything. Just trying to be a better player, trying to be a great player at this high level game. We playing. I'm just trying to get better at everything. So I believe that's what's helping me out. With the accuracy and stuff like that.
The funny thing about his footwork is that it's still he's just so freakishly gifted in his ability to throw from different angles and with bad footwork and everything that it just when I see a lot of the QB gurus types and everything and break them down, they kind of fall into one of two schools. There's one that's like, well, he could just be so much more accurate if you just do this and do that. And then there's another that I think kind of like almost like the maybe if it was a baseball person analyzing Bagwell's swing, they're kind of like, I don't know, it works for him, or his stance, especially like it's of course not. He shouldn't be looking like he's taking a dump while he's batting, but it works for him. So I think that's how a lot of people are with Lamar Jackson by now, especially like in this offense too, where he's been pretty accurate. That it works for him and he's able to make some beautiful touch throws. And he's more accurate than a lot of other guys, despite his janky footwork and mechanics at times.
Joe Flacco, you former teammates when you playing in the playoffs, or are you gonna be watching that game? What feelings do you get like come off when you watch it?
I don't know if I'm gonna watch the game, but
I don't know which game was he talking about. Is this from last week?
I don't know if I'm gonna watch.
Hold on a second.
When you playing in the playoffs, or are you gonna be watching that game? What feelings do you get like come off when you watch it?
Sorry, one more.
Game, we playing. I'm just trying to get better at everything. So I believe that's what's helping me out, with the accuracy and stuff like that.
Joe Flacco, you former teammates when you playing in the playoffs.
Oh, this is last week's. Okay, so he's not talking about the Texans yet.
I don't know if I'm gonna watch the game, but I know I'm gonna watch the film. So, yeah. But it's great to see Joe back playing. Because I always felt he was elite. Just from my rookie year watching him practice, seeing him throw the ball across the field from, just flat foot and stuff like that. I'm like, damn, this guy, his arm a cannon. But if we play him, just hopefully he'll be, just showing off the Joe elite then. But yeah, it'd be great to play against him though.
Hey,
Week for you.
Nacho.
Antsy at all to get to the game?
The Texans are playing the Ravens this week. Okay, man. That's the easy connection I just made for you there, fella.
But I gotta stay locked in on what's ahead. We have nothing ahead right now. We just practicing, trying to get better. For whoever our opponent is next week. But I'm definitely antsy though.
I feel bamboozled by the Ravens YouTube. Hold on a second. I want to see if they've got the other one. Now I'll do that tomorrow. We've had enough. I don't know if I'd want to hear. I think maybe I want to hear more from. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out tomorrow. I've still got to do Matt Burke too. So if I do peace, I get balloons. If I do thumbs up, like that. Somebody wanted me to do the finger. So get the kids out of the room. I want to do the finger and see what happens. Double rods or John and Lance. Yeah. Nothing. Okay. I appreciate all of you guys that hang out as long as you do on these. Sometimes I feel like I could go for 7 hours and you'd still hang out like I'm a gamer or something. I do. Oh. Okay, we do have to watch this. We'll watch the Jair. Okay, this is Jair Alexander and EJ Speed. This time, okay, earlier I showed you Jair Alexander and EJ Speed talking about CJ Stroud and how much they love him. Now they talk about Dalton Schultz. And in the game last week, I don't know if you noticed on the TV copy or not, but Dalton Schultz and EJ Speed were like shoving each other and talking a lot of smack like the whole game long. So these guys talked about it, and I can't even remember which two clips I pulled, but this is EJ Speed and Jair Alexander talking about like what it's like when they start jawing with a player during the game and how they were doing it with Dalton Schultz, the Texans tight end, when they were playing the Colts a couple weeks ago.
I don't like people that I go against. Like after the game, we could be cool. Like after the game, we cool. I big beefing with my man Dalton Schultz. Yeah, big beefing all week. All week, I'm right at it
for the rest of your career.
He pieced it up with me. God damn it!
And I totally respect.
I hate that. He pieced it up.
Yeah, he did the same
we
thing.
We cool again. Yeah, I'm mad as shit about that.
PA. Yeah, so he's pissed because he was because he likes hating the guys that he's going against. I respect that. That is old school. Like because he talked about this with a few players that like he wants to hate him and he builds up this hate, and then they either dap him up or say, try to talk to him afterwards, and then they're cool again. Most psychotic guy ever was Greg Lloyd for the Steelers. Greg Lloyd would come up with like these dramas in his head that he would make up to help him hate his opponents. And I remember, like, at one point, he started yelling at Keenan McCardle once about Keenan calling his house or something, and Keenan was like, I've never met this man in my life. But he was like, that was a story that Greg Lloyd had built up in his head. So this is EJ Speed talking about Dalton Schultz. And because I think it was EJ and Dalton that were going at it the most.
The best part about Schultz is he made me respect it because a lot of like white, I can say it. A lot of white boys,
they get sensitive.
They get sensitive and be like, "Why are you like you know what I mean?"
Bro, what do you mean, bro?
Dalton was at it though. Like, you feel what I'm saying? He was at it.
No, he said some shit. Y'all fucking can't even tackle. Whoa.
And he wasn't. And the crazy thing was, he wasn't crying to the ref.
Okay. Yeah.
When it was beef and Dalton got his push back, his push after the play, and I pushed him back or whatever like that, he ain't flop.
Okay.
He ain't look at the ref, so I'm like, all right, you feel me? I can respect
your gangster.
So they respect Dalton's gangster. Look, as far as saying that white guys are like that, yeah, guilty. Guilty on that one. Yeah. They're taking a little too serious too fast. Yeah. There's a spectrum. There's cultural differences. And, like in any cultural difference, there's like some that are this far to one spectrum or the other. But that's maybe fair. I would judge their white guy accents is they're a little too they're pretty good white guy accents. These guys are good. So these are the it's the trenches with Zaire Franklin. And but he has EJ Speed on a lot. Definitely got to re-sign Schultz. Yeah, Schultz is Jesus. I said Jair, didn't I? Thank you. Jair is the weirdo on the Jair Alexander is the weirdo on the Packers. I'm gonna have to redo that whole thing. I cut up the little bit from the live stream the other day, and like it hit big numbers like very quickly. Except now I've said Jair Franklin instead of Zaire like 29 times. I knew it felt wrong. Damn it. If we're going to lose Bobby Slowik anyway, we might as well trade him to Chicago for their number one pick. I would like a Dalton Schultz re-sign. Let's see. Jair Alexander is fun. Re-sign Schultz. Have you thought about coaching? No. I don't have the patience. Like, I'm too I don't have the patience, and I get too distracted. I need novelty. Like, those guys are so good at just grinding. I've enjoyed it when I've like helped out just as a volunteer high school coach, but I've got the utmost respect for coaches because I honestly I don't think I could handle the grind of it all. Like, they're very focused. My wife's a really good coach, and like, one of the reasons our marriage works is because she has all the qualities that I don't. So we complement each other really well. And her ability to kind of focus in on something steadfastly for weeks and weeks and weeks is something that I don't have. All you need is some Adderall. No, No. Well, I mean, no, I'm not saying that it's I've got no issues with people taking Adderall whatsoever if they need it. I just think that's my it's just more my that's me. All right, I'm gonna get going. If you please like, subscribe. I will cut this up tomorrow into more palatable sizes, including. Well, I won't do the Lamar Jackson one because it was last week's anyway, so that was dumb. And I would say thanks for sticking around, Nacho. I thought maybe I got too bitchy there when you asked why we were watching. Am I open to the A&M job? Oh yeah, that's right. I was putting myself in for that. Okay, that's the other thing. I like it's the work-life balance for me more than anything. Like I just to be a good coach, you got to really grind away and like get the same thing for a long time. And I don't know if I've got the capacity for it. Like even when I come from a farming family, and you work really long hours on the farm, but it's like, oh, you're out doing one chore for a couple hours, then you go work on a tractor for a couple hours, then you might like the monotonous one is like plowing and stuff like that, but that's for a short period of time, you know, a few times a year. So I like the challenge and the variety of farming. Like I don't mind working long hours. I mean, it's my day this morning started at 4 a.m. and now it's 9:20 p.m. Like I don't mind working long hours. I can't do it all in the same spot. I'd go insane. I'd stab somebody. And they hate that in coaching. Yeah, go Farmington. You know what I'm talking about. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for showing up. And go Texans.